Florida man in full bloom that we have here. We have the Florida State House trying to say that the genie needs to go back into its bottle. You can't quite do that because we're now going to no longer be saying gay. So don't say gay in Florida, because the Florida legislation is currently wending its way through the Senate, having passed the House on the Don't Say Gay bill, and we have two wonderful articles by two diametrically opposed outlets. We have one who have taken a large dump on the legislation and then set fire to it, and we have one that is in the parking lot popping champagne corks, doing donuts in their car as the legislation floats above them with a halo and glows. I shall leave you viewers to work out which publication I am referring to as you read along as we go through this wonderful, wonderful journey into the Florida Don't Say Gay bill, which will also feature a special mention from the Florida Woke bill. So,
I'm sure that I'm just going to be so absolutely flabbergasted by the acumen of the Florida legislature here. But what have you got for us?
So Florida has decided that in the United Kingdom, we didn't go far enough, because in the United Kingdom in 1988, we passed some legislation called Section 28, which was part of the Local Government Act of that year, which prohibited, and I'm going to read directly from the legislation here, a local authority shall not intentionally promote homosexuality or publish material with the intention of promoting homosexuality, or promote the teaching in any maintained school of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretend family relationship. And for those of you Americans who don't know what a local authority is, think your city council. Think your local county. They were banned from promoting the teaching in any maintained school of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretend family relationship, which basically meant that no talk whatsoever in any way, shape, or form of anything LGBT was discussed when I was at school for the entirety of while I was at school. Thankfully, in the UK, we decided to get rid of that, but now Florida has decided to go pro. Tie both hands of the teachers behind their back, place a gag in their mouth, and expect them to look out for the best interests of their children in their class and the pupils and the students that are also going to be around, whilst still trying to do their job, which creates this absolutely nonsensical, farcical situation where a teacher is worried about what the parents will say, because this Don't Say Gay bill means that being sued is a lot easier. Losing your job is a lot easier. But if you've then got a student that comes up and says, I'm having issues here, what does the teacher do? Especially considering there was an amendment proposed.
Yes. Oh, my God.
A wonderful gentleman that said that if a student is not, quote, straight, then within 6 weeks, the principal must inform the parents in writing that this is the case. Doesn't give any yeses or nos as to this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. Nope.
Yep.
6 weeks, child not straight, must tell parents. Thankfully, that's been withdrawn. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And coupling this with the Woke Act, which is being proposed, which moves Florida backwards in the world of civil rights and the elimination of hostile environments for minorities, and will have serious unintended consequences, because the Woke Act says that no, you can't talk about certain things such as race, gender, and discrimination in schools and workplaces. So guess what? All of this progress that we've been making to eliminate hostile workplaces from sexual harassment and make places safer for women to actually be in the workplace, this feels like I'm stepping back into an episode of Mad Men, where everything's all Mr. Draper and his row of secretaries and him smoking around all of them going, hello, I'm going to slap your backside. I mean, for goodness sakes, where is Florida going with all this?
No, just about that direction.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did they ever really get that far, though? I don't know.
They never left. They never left.
Yeah, this feels like they're just sort of dropping the facade and being like, hey, we don't have to pretend anymore. people voted for Trump. Like 80 million people voted for Trump. We don't have to hide anymore. We can just come out with it. People will vote for us. Ben, what did you have to add to this?
Just like the whole concept is absolutely ridiculous. But like I saw that like a lot of the rhetoric around this tends to be like, you can't tell us how to parent. Like you can't tell us how to do things for our kids. And which is funny because it's like, no matter how many kids you have, doesn't matter if you're a parent, but like your right to be a parent and your right to control what your kids do and know every little thing that your kids do, like does not mean that you have expertise in psychology, sociology, or biology. Does not mean you know anything about how your kid functions. It means that you had a baby, or your partner had a baby, or you adopted a baby. Something you have some kind of child. That's it. That's all it means. It does not give you any credibility. It does not mean that you are right at all. It just means that you have a kid. But people are using this as some sort of assertion of their authority. And it's funny because this right to know about your kid's sexuality and gender identity if they come out to a teacher at school, just like there are certain cases where you don't need to inform parents about certain things that are going on in your kid's health. And this is for safety reasons. Certain interventions such as STI testing, abortions, prenatal care, don't need to have parental consent in most states, at least. And this is because it is better for a child to receive care and not have the parents know about it than to not receive care because they were too scared to report that they were having an issue. Like if you have a kid who is, like, say, a 16-year-old who's sexually active and wants to get an STI test or a pregnancy test, how many of them do you think are going to go to their doctor and report that they want that if they know, hey, I have to report this to your parents? They're not going to go get the care. So it's better. Sure, it would be great if we could include everybody in on this decision-making all of the time. But sometimes, for safety, it is more important. It is better. It is a greater good to not report it and to treat the person independently.
I mean, what next? We start asking parents who have had one of their children come up to a doctor or a teacher and say, look, I think something not very nice has happened to me. Do we ask them if we're going to get their permission before we carry out a medical inspection with suspected abuse? That would be insane. But this is the level that we're actually dealing with here, because what it's saying here is effectively parents have the right to know and consent to everything that is done to their child, treating their children like they're indentured serfs in the same way that Dred Scott v. Stanford treated poor Dred Scott when he tried to sue for his freedom. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And children are not the property of their children. And children are not the property of their parents, even.
Yes. I know what you meant.
Children are not the property of their parents. Parents are not the property of their children, even.
Yeah.
As Ben says, you've just had a child. That's it.
And that's where, you hear about, parents' rights. Okay. And it sounds very eerily similar to, a state's rights. Like you said, the children are not the property of their parents. And when people say, the Civil War was fought over states' rights, and I wanted to go up to them and say, finish the sentence, because there is so much more in that. It's, states' rights to own people and reclaim their property, because that's what that was about. North said, no, we're not letting you have these free people that try to leave you. And South's like, but we want our property. And the same thing is happening here in different language. Obviously, it's not the same exact thing, but it's like, parents' rights to know everything about their kid. And you know, yeah, you do need to know certain things. You need to know, like, if they're breaking the law once they get to a certain age, you know, you probably don't want to have your 22-year-old around, you know, breaking laws, but that's the economy we live in right now. The thing is that, you know, this don't say gay, you know, we don't want to talk about it in school, you know, it needs to be age appropriate. And I can kind of get behind age appropriate things, because you don't teach a first grader calculus unless there's some type of genius savant, and you know, that's a different story. But it's
flashbacks to Jason's kindergarten class.
Yeah, not so much.
It was trigonometry, wasn't it?
Computer science, but we won't go there. So everybody is treating this like, you know, you're sitting little Billy or little Julie down, you know, in kindergarten, and it's like, so here are two gay men who love each other very much, and they're going to Roger each other silly in the next room because of this. It's like nobody is teaching that. No one is saying that. They're saying that, you know, love is love, and these two people are together. That is pretty much it until they get older and they can understand and have more maturity. And we're seeing institutions outside of school, outside of you know, that Sesame Street introduced a gay couple, two dads. Now again, it's 2021, last year, way too late, but they did it. And the fact that they're willing to do that, the fact that, you know, it speaks volumes that there is some positive change. It's just not happening in Florida.
Because I say
True.
the most revealing thing in the National Review article was they confirmed that Ron DeSantis supported this bill, but hasn't even read it.
I loved that. I love that. I zeroed in on that too. I think we all had that in our notes, that he was just like, oh wait, hating gays? Hell yeah! Hell to the fucking yeah! Let's go,
Yeah.
baby! We're done here.
Get those icky gays out of here.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say, I don't know if any of you guys have children, but I have three. I have three kids, 20, 17, and 14. And yes, Ben, I'm not an expert just because I fucked 3 times. I know, okay? But I hate...
Wow.
Yeah, at least 3, Phoebe. At least 3.
That's so many
Maybe.
times.
Do the math.
I know, right?
Well, hey.
See, I was in kindergarten pre-calc too. But I hate this fascist attitude of conservatives to think, like you guys were saying, that they can control their children. The children are not your property. You are the custodian of their well-being. Like, you are not their master. You are their guide. And that is all that you are. And your children are going to grow up to be very different people than you. And that's okay. And that's great. Like, who wants a little clone of yourself running around? I don't. I revel in the fact that my kids are way different than me. My daughter just got asked to paint a mural at her school. I can't even draw a fucking stick figure. I don't know where she gets it, but she's been able to flourish. And I absolutely love that, that my kids are different than me. You know, I've never tried to sort of pigeonhole their development. And yeah, I've tried to be their guide. And I think a lot of these people, like, they have no idea what it is to be a good parent. Completely missed the mark.
I think we should all take one line from the Hill article. We should all oppose this until we're rainbow in the face. Every single one of us, until we're rainbow in the face.
I love.
We should oppose this nonsensical Section 28 from the UK on steroids. It's probably going to be signed into a man who would, even if he was just given it in the middle of the night when he was asleep, would go, oh yeah, what's this say? Oh, don't say gay. Yeah, I'll sign that.
Yeah. Exactly. Another thing, kind of like what Jason was saying, with the comparisons there to, teaching children about, pegging or whatever the hell they think goes on, but they also threw in a reference to teaching critical race theory in K-12 classes, which that doesn't happen. Like, that's like a college level course, but they're comparing this up here as, and this is a quote, the teaching of CRT and LGBT issues is an attempted activist coup. This is an activist coup to teach critical race theory and history. Like, it's almost like the people that protested against desegregation in the 60s, they don't want their grandkids knowing that they protested against desegregation in the 60s, and that's why they voted for DeSantos.
And I say there's other wonderful lines from the National Review article, which are just classic dog whistles, which I hear all the time in the UK. I hear these all the time in the UK, because in the UK, the anti-trans agenda has, been exported, and we're now seeing it popping up. So this sinister fiction and why confuse children with this highly contentious metaphysical claims. Basically, what this is this is the UK version of Save Women's Spaces, Protecting Women, which is usually a group of very, very narrow-minded, very right-wing men that just hate trans people, now being exported to Florida going, let's save the children, save parents' rights, which is just a very, very load of narrow-minded white people who are very right-wing going, let's save the children. Seen it all before, heard it all before, gonna be here tomorrow. I was here yesterday as well. Ben's gonna be here tomorrow. He was here yesterday as well. We're not gonna go anywhere.
No, I'll still be fucking my husband tomorrow, like it or not.
I'll still be trans tomorrow.
And I will still support each and every last one of you, because it's just the right damn thing to do.
Yet you still haven't opened that video that I sent you.
Yeah, no, I haven't. It's going to go ahead and sit in that inbox. Don't you worry about it.
Oh, we're just kidding, folks. We're just kidding. We haven't really touched on the tale of the Little John family from the National Review. I know you guys read that, but Jason, did you get a chance to read the tale of the Little John family?
Unfortunately, I didn't, because I was rushing through the notes. So let's,
Okay. Hey, I have to do the sandwich technique where I do something mean and then I do something good and then I do something mean again. Oh wait, no, I got that backwards. But Ben,
it's not like mixing white and brown bread.
Oh, that's a different show. It's not Thursday yet. Although, no, it is Thursday where in your neck of the woods, isn't it? All right.
Yes, it is.
We'll let that stand. But did either of you, Phoebe or Ben, did you get a chance to look into the Little John family example they gave? If
I
not,
looked at it. My brain is a little bit fried. I'm not gonna lie. Let me.
That's okay. You work for a living, but okay. So I'll just give a real quick brief synopsis, because the way that they framed this really stuck out to me, and this is from the National Review article. So basically, the story goes: parents inform the school that their daughter is confused about her gender. They make it clear to this school that they are not supportive. They do not want her daughter expressing her doubts. They do not want her being anything other than their little girl. The article then goes on to vilify the teachers for asking this girl what pronouns they prefer, what restrooms they're comfortable with, whether this kid wants them to share this information with her parents. This is presented as progressive overreach. Like, you've basically got shitty, unsupportive parents who are then portrayed as the heroes against these teachers who are actually doing the right thing here. And it's like, the way they frame it and the way they try to put it to people to make them agree with what it is that they're trying to get across. And yet somebody, even on the neutral side, let alone, the liberal side, but even looking at this from a neutral point of view, like, I'm just like, well, your parents suck, kid. And I'm glad you at least have some teachers who are at least trying to help you lessen this burden.
Right. And thinking about like these people, the teachers in this example aren't even like that progressive. Like they're doing
Yeah,
they're doing the bare minimum.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But this bare minimum is now overreach. Like this is too radical, too extreme for you to ask a kid like how they prefer to be called and like where they feel safe. Like that is the absolute bare minimum they could do.
It's like take an example. A woman gets married and doesn't take her husband's name. This is a heterosexual marriage, and they have decided that they're not going to take the name. But you insist on calling her Mrs. Smith when she wants to be known as Miss Jones. You insist, and you keep doing it because you're married to a man. Therefore, you must follow the patriarchal requirements, and you will be Mrs. Smith. I don't care whether you call yourself Miss Jones still. You are still Mrs. Smith as far as I'm concerned, because I demand that you follow this set of rules that I have imposed, for goodness sakes. How dare you do anything different? How dare I have the shred of common decency?
So this actually has a real life situation in my own life where my mom was no longer married to my dad for a very long time, and yet every school, every teacher, every conference, they kept on calling her by my last name, and it's like this is she had to keep on reminding them. It's like, no, I'm this, and I even had to tell them a couple of times. It's like, no, she's not Sherwood, she's this other name. And most of the time, being in the liberal bastion of Illinois that it was no big deal. But there were a couple of times where it's like, oh, you're just lying to me. Like, no, this is really what it is. And if you actually took the time to talk to her and understand what the situation is, even back then, even in a liberal bastion, you do get some of that sexism.
Well, and it's just funny that the people who are supposedly in favor of autonomy and freedom, so much freedom, and then they're so like restricted to like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this in school. You can't do this to my kid. Like, do you want freedom or do you not? I'm confused about their argument. It's very inconsistent.
You can have your freedom with your God and your guns.
Remember, everyone, America's about freedom. Freedom to
Unless...
Asterisk.
Yes, heavy on the asterisk. Charlton Heston's waiting in the back room to give you the rest of the paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
But, all right, I think we're going to move on because, I kind of don't want to stay in Florida any longer.